Hi everyone, welcome back to the Journey Coach. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a tool I'm using that's helping improve my overall productivity, and that is really, I think, the holy grail for me in terms of organization and planning management of my time, because it helps me prioritize and keep track of those priorities, which, as we know, time management's kind of an oxymoron. It slips by. I can't really manage that time, so to speak, but I can set priorities in terms of where I should be spending it, and that becomes vital to being successful. So, I have tried so many apps, and in fact, on the channel, I have a recommendation for how to choose one, and I gave a couple of tools that I've used that I thought were useful, and they are to a great degree. I've tried things like Trello and Asana for managing projects and working with people. I've used everything from Todoist, Things, OmniFocus, and the list, Wunderlist. The list can go on and on in terms of what I've used in a task management system. But what I found was it really didn't give me what I needed overall. I was going to multiple places to find information and to be able to actually use it to get to what I needed. And sometimes what becomes very frustrating with that is that you're moving in and out of a lot of different programs. You're not really getting the opportunity to dig in and just stay in one program all day long. So, about 6 months ago, 6 to 8 months, I ran into a program called Notion, and that became really interesting to me because of the overall flexibility. But at the time, I didn't have the time to really dig in because you have to develop your own system, which is the beauty of it, but also the learning curve is a little steeper. And while I see myself as someone who's very quick to pick up technology, I mean, I have a lot of to-do lists, I have a lot of different projects, and I can sit down and switch over to a whole new system in like 2 or 3 hours, just, digging in and moving stuff. And I'm not afraid to do that. I've done it a lot because I'm always searching for the best thing that allows me just to work and not have to click so many places as well. So April 3rd, Friday, April 3rd, I'll put a date to it. I actually was really, I mean, just kind of the week had hammered me, which I'm sure a lot of people are in that same situation. And I just needed something that would be productive, but not the norm for Friday. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to just dig into Notion and I'm going to see what it can do for me and play with it. And it took me Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to really develop the system that I think is going to be what I use from now on. And the beauty of it is, if I need it to do something new, I can just add that in. I can build it. It works on relational databases, at least for the functionality that I really like. That's what I'm using. I highly recommend Marie Poulin. She's a Notion Pro, and I've watched a lot of videos from her, and that helped me really start making decisions about what I wanted to do. And then William Nutt is another Notion Pro who I would highly recommend because of what he understands about formulas and how to use formulas. That being said, I'm going to do a quick overview of what I've done, and then I'll continue to put together videos to help you build something similar if you should want it. And there are other videos you can go watch to really dig into how this is used by different people. What I liked about Marie's system is the weekly agenda. So in January of 2019, I guess it was probably about December of 2018, I decided to try paper again. I was a paper planner back in the day when we didn't have the electronics. And I sat down and started using, trying to put everything on paper and carry around a planner. And it just didn't work because I ended up with things on my phone in my calendar that didn't make it to the paper calendar and vice versa. So I'd use one and it wouldn't have everything. And I'm just like, this is not going to work. It sounds good, but I can't go back to that way of doing things. But then no planner system with a calendar and a task management that I can get on my iPad and my phone really did what I needed it to do. So as many of you know from watching this channel, I'm a professor in the traditional sense. I'm also a professor in online graduate degree programs and doctorate programs. I consult with universities to build out new degree programs at the doctorate level. And I have a consulting business where I work with small and medium-sized companies and clinics that are trying to devise a system to be productive, set strategic planning goals, all of that type of thing. So I have multiple types of things I need to keep track of different types of business activities, if you will. One of those happens to be research and then learning. Um, as you also know, I've finished 2 doctorate degrees, one in 2009 and one in 2018. And that PhD and that doctorate I did while working full time, which meant that I understand what a lot of online students go through when they're trying to juggle family, work, and very rigorous education that requires a lot of research and writing. And being organized is one of the keys to being successful in that. And so while I'm no longer pursuing a degree, I promised my family I would not pursue another one. I do still have learning projects. Like, for instance, I'm working on a certification right now, which requires studying, really digging into material, learning it so I can pass an exam. So, that being said, I think this is an awesome system for people who research and need to keep track of their research teams, notes, all of that. I think it's excellent for students who want a note-taking system that also ties their task management, their task and knowledge management in all one area. That's just awesome. So I could talk about this for probably a couple of hours and not even take a breath, but I don't want this to be that long. So let me give you an overview of what I built out for myself. Please realize that most of the areas in my system are based on a database, which is not as scary as it sounds. It just takes a little thought in how you want your things organized. So what I have done is set up a weekly agenda. And every week of the year, I have this agenda that will pop up. So these right here are my fields in this particular table. Now I set up and built this out using a template. The beauty of the template is now I've got that built on the template. I just open a new template to start a new week and everything I've built is there. So it's just filling in the holes, so to speak. So this is the week. So I set this up as a date field and that means I can choose my dates beginning and ending. I can add a reminder on there and that comes in handy later. A few things in my system that make the whole thing work. In every database I developed, I put a week number, which you can get if you go to your Google Calendar or your iCal or anything like that. You can, in the preferences, tell it you want to see week number. And so I just went in and got all those weeks and added it onto my appointment calendar view. And so now every database I set up has that week, which allows me to pull into my weekly agenda from every database based on the week. It's brilliant how this can work. I added a grateful line. I really tried to do gratitude journals, things of that nature, but I'm just not a journaler. It always sounds good, and then I sit down and I just don't stick with it, don't do it. And I have a hard time putting things on paper anymore because I don't know how many little notebooks I have that are full of things that I could never lay my hands on if I needed it. So I like things to be technology driven where I can search and find. And this, because it's in a database, I can actually set up a view of my weekly agendas that just show me my grateful line and what I've written there. And so I can really reflect back and go look at the database for my weekly agendas and the gratitude. And I could sit there at the end of the year and just read what I wrote every week about what I was grateful for. That's huge. It doesn't take much time for me to track that. Sometimes I fill that in. I fill it in the middle of the week because I actually, I'm going to open up my planning dashboard, which has the weeks I've already put in place. You can see them. So these are the card view, the gallery view of my weekly agendas that I already have created. So I created through end of June, so I'll need to create the next set a little bit later. But here's last week's. I'm going to open the page. And you can see I have all this filled in. So we'll go on this page for a moment. So I filled in what I was grateful for. I have an effectiveness select view. So 1 star being the least effective that I could be that week. Maybe that's a week where I just lay on the couch all week because it's my vacation week and that's my goal. I guess you could call that highly effective if that's what I had planned. But 1 star, not effective at all, to 5 stars, as effective as I possibly could have been, as productive as I possibly could have been. I could change that if I wanted to from effectiveness to productivity level. And that easy, I've changed what that's called. And now that tells me, okay, I had a very high productivity level, 4. That's not bad. Win. So what did I actually have a win for this week? And this can be really helpful, especially if you have a bad week and you think everything's gone wrong. Just throwing up there when you have a win, and you can go back and reflect at the end of the week and go, oh, there were some things that went well that I really won on, and that's one of them. So, that's something I may fill in as I go during the week when I really hit something that I win. And there's nothing that says, I can write as much as I want in here and it'll just wrap around and I'll have multiple sentences. Challenges, things that didn't go as well as I wanted them to. I really want to try to do better. Nagging me. So this is an area where if there's just something that just ate at me all week, that I can put it here and just acknowledge that that's nagging me. There may be something I can do about it, and there may not. So it can be something physical, like my allergies were really bothering me last week. It could be emotional. So anything could go in there. I have 2 lines that I put what I would call kind of my meditation mantras, if you will, down. And that way, when I meditate, that is one of my habits I would like to develop. And I don't meditate for a long period of time. I just, at this point, don't have that in me to do. But I have this, and even if I just take a minute or two to breathe and think about these statements, it kind of helps me slow down a little bit. So I have one line that's called Soul's Journey and another that's called Wisdom. And I just pull things from different places and put them in there. Events of the week that I just want to kind of remember. Remember, this is kind of like my journaling option. COVID-19, social distancing, isolation, very unique time in history. I'd like to also capture what I'm grateful for, what nags me, what wins, what challenges exist during this time in history. And then areas for improvement, things I want to get better at. That I could see. It can be overall, it could be specific to that week. But one of the nice things about this is it gives me the ability to go look back at what happened during my weeks across the year, and I can look at that week by any of these areas and really see what was going on. And so it helps with the reflection on your week. So I might, as a win, if I achieved a larger goal, finished a big project, that could be in the wind. Then I have focus projects, so things I know that they're in the project database. They have their own project page set up, which I'll get into at a later time. And this is the link to them so that I can get into that quickly when I want to work on that project. And then video project tracker. So I have several different kinds of videos I do. I do videos like this, and I'm working to develop those to a larger grouping on the Journey Coach so that I can start helping more people than just the clients I work with or students I'm in class with and helping through subject matter. And so I'm adding to there that those videos are something that go in this spot. They have their own database, their own checklists. They don't end up on my task calendar. What ends up in my task calendar that's video is if it's specific to a class I'm teaching or specifically being created for a client that needs it for training or something of that nature. And so that might go down there. The next section I have is I always put a quote here, and I'm going to go back to my current week. I always put a quote here, and you'll see those change. I put them in at the beginning of every week or when I create week dashboards. You'll also see up here focus projects are a little different. 2 were added. And then I do have this video is in the video project tracker. So I'll cut this, I'll go into that setup, and I'll check off a couple of items once this has been put together. I add my quote for the week. I have this little checklist here. So did I get a video published? Did I get a blog done? Did I put together my newsletter? Social, that will probably get eliminated for me. It is not something I use or use heavily right now. Maybe at some point I will. But anything that I know I want to publish in any given week, I just have this quick checklist. Top goals, things that I know I really want to get to. Any household tasks, these are things I don't put on a task list in terms of my actual project management kind of system that I put together. But they're things I want to do for the house. They can carry over from week to week if they need to. If I want to take one of these and move it to another week, I put some links to the next 4 weeks in my weekly overview. So I can go to any of these in my system quickly by just clicking this button. I don't have to leave my page and go over to the left-hand side dashboard. I put some core beliefs in here. These are easily removed if you don't want them. Here's another quote that I found that I really like. Okay, so all of that you can design and add, change, move around, whatever fits you and what you want to see. And everything I've showed you so far, you are not stuck with any of this, and that's the beauty. Now I get into the relational databases. So this is a separate, I have multiple databases, which many will say just put it all in one big database. But I have a few concerns with that in terms of just having one master database. For one thing, everything you put in your database like this gets added to the top of any page you open belonging to that database. So I've seen some where this list, like you have to scroll like that far down to get to the end of the elements in that particular database. And that to me is just overwhelming, and it's not pretty, which is important to me. It's not aesthetically pleasing. I don't like it to be that full of things. Now, I don't have to fill them all in, but then I've got a lot of blank lines sitting up there that I can't get rid of. So I prefer kind of looking at chunks of what happens in my life and separating them out, while trying to keep in mind I don't want 50 databases. So the first one is an appointment view. Now, for some, you'll watch some videos, and the way they've got their appointments set up is they just add them in. I don't like that. I want it to actually be fully functional. So I set up a database for my appointment calendar. And I go in and I open one up, and that indicates it's a Zoom meeting. I type in what it's for. I have the date, the time. This is a drop-down menu, so I know that that date is Monday. I know it's in week 16. Now, these are crucial categories for me in my database because that's what allows me to get them on my weekly agenda. So, because I group these by day, and because that's one of the database properties I set, I know that April 17th is a Friday. So when I filled out this card, April 17th pulled Friday. I know that April 17th falls in week 16 of the year. So in this database, it's filtered by week 16. If I change this to 17, then my week 17 appointments come up. So, perfect. And then they're grouped by day. So I just get into this weekly agenda, and here are my appointments for the week. Now, I also have two other task databases beyond the video project tracker that has its own database. I do a lot of grading. A lot of grading is required because of my work across multiple organizations. And so I want that list of to-dos separate. Now, this I've already done all my grading for this week. That's why I've grayed out the line. I changed the color to a background of gray, and I added done in red. So what that tells me is I do not need to toggle this open again this week, unless I just want to see what I accomplished. And the whole board went gray when I changed that to gray. So the way I group these are by high, medium, low, minimal. That means the amount of actual attention, brain work required to do these. I also have them set up where they tell me whether they're started or in progress. This is in case, I don't always change this to in progress and done, because when I check that off, it's done. Some of these things, all of these were something where I could sit down and just do them. So they didn't really ever change to an in progress or waiting. I put that in there and show it on the card in case I have something that is going to take, I'm going to walk away from and come back. I put it in progress so I can just look at the card and know I started that, I did not finish it. I also put on here the time sync. So what kind of time I think it's going to take for this. Now, I not only have this filtered by week, so this just brings up what I need to get graded this week. And because it can really get graded anytime during the week, that's why I set up the board this way. But I also sort it, and I sort it by done. So if I do this and check it not done, it moves to the top of the list. When I check it done, it moves back. So that's great because that means as I check things off, no matter where they are, they move to the bottom, the unchecked stays at the top. Okay, things to get done. These are all other actions that are not related to the grading or video. I know. The only videos that end up on here are like this video that's specific to a class. It needs to go in there. Now, these are grouped differently. I group them by today, tomorrow, sometime, or end of week. Right? So that's how they're grouped. They also have the sort on them that when I check it off as done, you'll see it goes away. Now, because this is a not done. So it's filtered by week and not done. So when I check it as done, it disappears off this board. Now, that's easy to get back because I can go all actions, right? I don't have that done. So I can go back and see, and you'll see the things I have checked off and already got done this week because those disappeared off of the not done list. Again, this is so customizable. You can have them just leave it all there. I like that it disappears as I work because what that means for me is that it's all done. And what I can leave the week in is I can change the view so it's all actions and shows them all checked off. And then I can handle it like I did down here where I gray it out and put done beside it. This is probably a week where I won't necessarily get everything done. But I've set these up for effort and impact. What if it's focused? Like I can't be doing anything else when I'm doing this. I have to focus on it. This is not a multitasking thing. If it's thinking, that for me probably means that I'm going to be doing it, stepping away. I can work on other things while it's brewing in the back of my head, and then I'll come back. It's going to be something that may stay in progress all week because I come back and forth as I'm thinking about it. If it says quick, that means I can just get it done. I'll start it, finish it, it'll be really fast. Focus generally means that it's going to take some attention. I put my time that I think, this is a estimated time, but if I look on this card, I can also put in actual time, so I know exactly what the actual time limit is. I also have on my database for this a next and after, so if this was following another activity, that activity would be put in here, and if I have another task that can't be started till this one's done, I would link it in this line. So here's tasks that I could link this to so that I knew that when this one was done, so let's just put one on here for fun. So now on the card, I see that when I finish this card, there is a task that follows it. And that particular task probably does not have a due date on it or a week assigned because I didn't need it clogging anything up till this one was done. So now I'm going to go change that. And if I don't like where this is sitting, so I can go into my properties and next in line is setting above status. I don't like the way that looks. So I can change that. So my status sits above that. Let me go back in here and go, I don't need that. Okay, so this is a quick overview of how I'm handling tasks. Then down here I have some reflection notes I can type in. I have a habit tracker that I'm checking off, and I have a course check-in just to let me know I've been in all those classes on that day. I hope this was an interesting overview and that you really start to see some of the potential that this has for organizing your life and making things so much easier to track. I'm going to break this down a little further in the next video, and I'm just going to start going through how to set things up and some of the other databases I have, how I'm handling research projects. So the next thing I'll probably cover are projects, and then we'll build from there. I hope you find this very useful, and if you really want to dig in and start creating this, then you can subscribe to this channel and follow these videos as they come out. I would also highly recommend Marie Poulin. In fact, she does a live, what's called Notion office hours on Fridays at noon Central Standard Time. And it's an hour you can spend on that. And she brings in different people to just show how they're using the system. Those are also recorded and posted on YouTube. William Nutt, if you want to get into how different database formula properties can work. And I'll show you how I use those. There weren't any on this page, but I am using that in some of the project trackers. So with that in mind, really dig in and enjoy the journey of developing a productivity system that will really work for you. The bottom line is this one takes more time than most to get up and running. But the payout, once you've spent that time, is huge. And once you like this is now a template. As long as I like the way this is set up, I don't have to spend this time on this again. It's done and it's ready to use, and I can use it as I move forward. So keep that in mind, that while it may take you a little bit to set it up, it's highly customizable. Once you really get into it and get that set up and it's sunk that time into it, it pays large dividends, and you do not have to then go in and constantly be sinking the same amount of time. So until next time, enjoy the journey, and I'll talk to you with the next video.